using Zoom. Members of the public may view and listen to the meeting tonight on Wave Channel 18 and online through the city's YouTube channel. If you'd like to participate in live public comment via the Zoom platform, please refer to the agenda for instructions. Chair Hutchinson will begin the meeting momentarily.
Good evening. I would like to call the Planning Commission meeting of September the 18th, 2024 to order. And may we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Eklund? Here. Commissioner Eric Johnson?
Here.
Commissioner Jerry Johnson? Here. Commissioner McKinney?
Here.
Commissioner Reedy?
Here.
Vice Chairman Gilbert?
Here.
And Chair Hutchinson.
Here. Thank you. We fully staffed and have a quorum. Next, our Pledge of Allegiance, and Commissioner Jerry Johnson, would you please lead us in the pledge?
Please join. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is if there are any agenda modifications, and I will ask staff if we have any agenda modifications this evening.
We do not.
Thank you. Next item is a public comment on non-agenda items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the commission. If it's an item that is on the agenda, then you would speak at that particular point. This is for items that are not on the agenda that would be under the purview, however, of the commission. And do we have anyone that wishes to speak that you've been told about, Jesse? Any cards?
I've not received any comment cards and I don't see any hands raised online.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to take advantage of this time? Seeing none, that is closed. Our next order of agenda is the informational items from staff. Do we have any?
We do. I'm going to jump up on the dais and give you a little overview on the downtown master plan.
Thank you.
We're catching up with as we break into the fall here. There's no action here. It's just simply a primer on what's coming down the road here. So building off of Cascadia's downtown code audit, which we did last year, which identified zoning constraints to housing production, the downtown master plan, or I'm going to refer to it as the DMP for short, will seek to develop the tools to enhance and transform the downtown into an active, thriving destination for residents and visitors. And key to this transformation will be to attract and incentivize developers to build additional housing in the downtown. So the most important tools for this would be the creation of zoning and design standards consistent with the findings of the code audit that allow for acceptable industry standard return on investment for developers. So the idea here is with more housing supply and smaller units, given the space constraints of downtown, market rate housing should become a bit more affordable through the design and the supply and demand and dynamics there. And just during this phase, obviously, and throughout the process, we'll be identifying issues and challenges that the downtown face. One that comes to my mind frequently is the truck traffic, specifically lumber, that comes down through Lincoln Boulevard. For the approach, for the DMP, it will be, obviously to update that community vision, remove zoning barriers, explore, and then kind of an add-on study that we have is the EIFD, which is to explore financing options through an enhanced infrastructure financing district, look at ways to expedite project approval, and then engage the community, probably most importantly, to engage the community throughout this process. So just like one note on the zoning barriers, parking requirements are a hot button issue in downtown, and that will obviously need to be wrestled with. Parking in downtown is expensive to produce, and it's often unattainable just given the size constraints of downtown. So, and we also know that more and more cities throughout the country are removing parking requirements altogether. The EIFD, or Enhanced Infrastructure Financing District, that's essentially retaining and collecting property taxes, property tax increases, or AKA the increment that you get from improving an area, then to finance bonds for infrastructure improvements within that district that is identified. So you have to use the money there. In regards to the project scope, this is essentially just a task-by-task step through of the project. Communicate, as you can see here, community engagement is key. To that end, we applied for an EEI grant from SACOG, which stands for Engage, Empower, and Implement. We're going to hear on that grant October 17th. We're partnered with the Chamber, and essentially that grant will give us monies to do more robust outreach. And so we're excited about that, the potential of that. So not to get too far ahead of ourselves. So wrapping up, we're 21 months out. We're just getting this kicked off. Right now, obviously, we're in 2024 Q3. We're doing background analysis on documents. We've identified key stakeholders for the downtown. We've categorized those stakeholders into developers who do business or who develop downtown, business owners and property owners, and then lastly, oversight entities such as the DLA, the Downtown Lincoln Association, the Chamber, and the Economic Development Committee. The Planning Commission, you will be making recommendations and having input on drafts as they are produced for review. And this is likely about 6 or 9 months out in Q3 of 2025. And so just to kind of end basically on some bigger picture thoughts as we've been kind of embarking on this process and getting excited about the planning of downtown. We're starting to kind of break down the downtown, parse and identify neighborhoods and or districts that make up this downtown. And we started to recognize, obviously, that we have, your foot traffic kind of driven businesses with two larger industries, which is fairly unique for a community of this size. Gladney McBean and Sierra Pacific Industries, obviously anchoring the north end of downtown. Obviously, we also then have legacy highway commercial, auto-oriented businesses and shopping centers wedged between our gateway at the Auburn Ravine and the historic civic core, as it were, where we are right now. And then lastly, we obviously have our east and west side residential neighborhoods that feed into the downtown, and we're going to include those in this analysis. We think those are really important assets to this whole study. And so, those neighborhoods also have, kind of yet to be identified sub-districts. So for instance, we're thinking of like a McBean Park district that could kind of solidify the identity of that area. So all in all, pretty impressive mix right out of the gate, not found in many comparable downtowns in the area or even across the country, having those large industries mixed in with our historic core and that and Main Street USA type of feel here. So with that, I'm just concluded the presentation. If you have any questions or input, I'm glad to hear it.
Do any of my colleagues have questions? Hearing none, thank you very much for the information. The next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. All matters on the consent agenda are considered routine, business and will be enacted by one motion unless.
I think there is ex parte communication.
Oh, I'm sorry,
disclosure.
you're right. I did,
parte.
yes, I did skip over ex parte. Please forgive me. Do any of my fellow commissioners have any communication to disclose regarding ex parte?
I
Yes.
exchanged those with Tony Frage on agenda item that he's here for. That's all I can say.
Anyone else? Seeing, yes?
I guess I'll just add, I exchanged an email too. He probably hasn't read it yet, but responded to his email. Oh, perfect. Okay.
Thank you. The next item, again, is our consent agenda. All matters on the consent agenda are considered routine business and will be enacted by one motion unless someone asks to have an item pulled, and I do have an item to be pulled this evening. There will be no separate discussion except on that one item, and that item that is removed will be considered after the remainder of the consent agenda. And the item that has been requested to be pulled is item 8C, the general plan consistency review related to the vacation of excess public right-of-way located within the proposed Joyner Ranch East Development Project. Before I call for a motion regarding passing the other consent items, do any of my colleagues wish to pull another item from the consent agenda? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept the rest of the consent agenda.
Move that we approve the balance of the consent agenda.
And I have a motion and a second. May we have a roll call, please?
Vice Chairman Gilbert,
Yes.
Commissioner Reedy,
Yes.
Commissioner Eklund. Commissioner Eric Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Jerry Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner McKinney,
Yes.
and Chair Hutchinson.
Yes. And that motion carries unanimously. The next item is item 8C, and Commissioner Jerry Johnson, the floor is yours.
Thank you. My concern is about reducing the right-of-way on Nicholas Road. My concern is not with the vacation of the easement that goes north and south parallel to Joyner, but the Nicholas Road easement. It appears to me as I drive by that that the sound wall is startlingly close to the street right of way, and to make it and to reduce the area, I think would be a mistake. But I want to hear more from city engineering staff.
Would anyone from staff like to address
Yeah, I
Commissioner?
think we have SP Hope online here. He's been briefed on your question, so he should be prepared to answer that.
Good evening, Chair and Madam Chair and Commissioners. This is SP, the Senior Engineer, Development Services. Yeah, so just as a background, this is we're vacating this road easement along Nicholas as requested and as approved by your body and the City Council under the applicant's tentative map back in 2021. So this is the underlying title is held by the applicant. We're basically vacating a portion of that road easement. As far as the wall is basically interfacing between the back of those lots and separates the public landscaping that currently the project would be installing. So there's a roadway, there's a separated sidewalk that's gonna go in there, and with landscaping on both sides of the sidewalk, and then the wall, and then the lots. So that's the kind of scenario out in the field. That's how the cross section would look. So does that give the commissioner some idea on what we're doing?
Johnson?
No, I don't understand it. Where on the diagram or the exhibit is
Oh,
the
so-
wall?
The wall's not shown on the exhibit. The exhibit is basically showing the portion that's being vacated.
I
It's
understand.
attachment two.
Right.
The
but-
approved plans would have the walls shown on them. And if you could, I've got the tentative map that was approved.
SP, sorry to jump in, but
Yep.
I mean, I think the concern here is there room for landscaping, right?
Well, I'm sure there's some room.
Yeah,
But it's very, very small area.
So
and-
SP, we
and
discussed it was 5 to 6
I-
feet.
I have two concerns. One is aesthetics, of course. But second, and more importantly, if the more landscaping you have, the more sound absorption you have, and the quieter, pleasanter it is for the neighbors. And to reduce that, it just seems like a
Right,
good
so
idea.
SP, do we have a
So-
standard for the width of the landscaping there? Would 5 to 6 feet be fairly standard?
Yeah, based on the improvement plans and consistent with the approval of the tentative map, as shown on the map, they have a separated landscaping corridor in front, separating the wall from the road. So it's about 6 feet, give or take 6, 7 feet, because it's a meandering sidewalk along south side of Nicholas. So, you know,
What is the width of the right-of-way that is being deeded back?
it's not deeded back. It's basically we're vacating the easement. It's about 7 feet. It's a 7-foot strip, yeah, along Nicholas.
That 7-foot easement that's being abandoned is part of the landscape.
Yes, portions of that would actually
Doesn't
be
go
encumbered
away.
with the
It's just
landscape
There's no longer an easement.
and sidewalk.
It's still there.
So the landscape portion still exists. It's just that there is no easement sitting on top of that section of land.
They're not taking away.
They're not
that
taking
7
away
feet.
anything.
It's not
They're
narrowing.
just getting rid of the encumbrance, the easement that sits on top of the.
Correct. This vacation allows them to put landscaping there and the wall and portion of those lots. So we can't have an easement over the top of existing lots, because the easement is 7 feet wide. So portion of it would have landscaping and the wall on it.
Okay, so SP, you're saying that the area to be landscaped would be the same whether or not it was vacated?
Yes.
Yes,
And-
yeah.
and-
Okay.
Remember, it's consistent with what the developer had proposed with the tentative map. If you go back to the resolution, they basically clearly show that portion as being vacated and it shows landscaping along that portion.
And that would address your concerns regarding the aesthetics and any sound issues because the 7 feet still there and landscape. Nothing is changing. Commissioner Johnson, does that answer your question or concern?
It does,
All
and I
right.
move approval of item 8C.
Thank you. Do I have a second? All right, I have a motion and a second. May we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Jerry Johnson,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Gilbert,
Yes.
Commissioner Eklund. Yes. Commissioner Eric Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner McKinney,
Yes?
Commissioner Reedy,
Yes.
and Chair Hutchinson.
Yes. Thank you. Motion carries unanimously. The next item on our agenda is item 9, which will be public hearings. Item 9A is a public hearing to consider the proposed modification to an approved specific development plan, development permit or design review for the 12 Bridges BP ARCO involving minor exterior modifications to portions of the convenience store facade and fuel station canopy. And may we hear from staff? Before staff shares with us before we do that. Do any of my colleagues have any comment regarding this agenda item? All right, thank you. Boniface, if you would share with us the information you have.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Boniface. Tonight, we have 12 bridges BPACO seeking to modify a previously approved design review. Give you a brief background to the current application. Last year in October, 12 bridges BPACO had an approved design review for a 3,400 square foot convenience store, an 8-pump gasoline station, and a car wash. Fast forward. Sorry. I went too far there. Okay, what you are seeing currently here, you're right, are just the elevations of the previously proposed car wash. This is the west elevation, and the bottom one is the east elevation. This is the approved site plan for the commercial development. Down here, you can see 12 Bridges Drive, and running up north, that's Colonnade Drive. Inside here, this is the gas canopy with the 8 pumps, proposed convenience store, and the car wash. Come this year, June 2024, 12 Bridges BPACO is back with the DRB again seeking to modify the previously approved design review. This time, they are now citing high construction costs as the reason why they want to modify the approved design. So in July, the DRB had a hearing and they approved the proposed modifications, which included removal of rock along building the convenience store base and between columns, removal of a couple of columns on the outside of the building, changing roof tiles, and the removal of a mansard roof on 2 towers in the back. As we move on with the slides, this time I want us to compare the previously approved 2023 version versus the revised or proposed 2024 version. What you have on the screen now is the south elevation, which is the most dominant view of the proposed development as it faces 12 Bridges Drive. And 12 Bridges Drive is one of the major thoroughfares in the area. So this is a very important view. There wasn't much changes to the revised, except the roof. As you can see previously, the roof was tiled mansard roofs. Now we have metal mansard roofs. But that's it. The rest of the stonework is to be retained as before. We come to the north elevation. The approved is above, approved 2023, the tiled mansard roofs. As you can see over there. And at the bottom, those gabled mansard roofs have been chiseled flat. What we have at the bottom in the revised version are now 2 flat roofs. And the stone rock, which was running parallel at the bottom, has now been removed. This is the west elevation. The approved 23 version, we had tiled roofs up there. Then the revised or proposed 2024 is metal roof. And this previously mansard roof there is now a flat roof in the revised version. At the bottom here, we have two columns that were removed. One was here, another one was there. And the stonework that ran parallel to the base has also been removed. In terms of changes to the roofing material, this was the previously approved clay tile. And this is the revised or proposed 2024 version, the metal roof. With our focus now on the pillars to the canopy. As you can see, there's considerable stonework in the midsection of those pillars there. In the revised 2024 version, there is reduced stonework and it's now confined to the very bottom or base of those pillars. Despite these changes, this commercial development still received a unanimous vote from the DRB board. And this project is still consistent with the City of Lincoln General Plan, the 12 bridges, specific development and general development plans. It also complies with Title 18, Chapters 18, 32, stands for the planning development, and 1867, which allows for design review. And it also complies with the CEQA, Section 15162. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission determines that the project complies with CEQA, Section 15162, and also recommends that the Planning Commission adopts a resolution approving the proposed design modifications to BP Aqua 12 bridges design review. Like I said earlier on, the applicant is seated in the back. If you have any questions, the floor is open. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I open it to a public hearing, do any of my colleagues have any comments or questions for staff? Yes, Commissioner Gilbert.
When you started your presentation, you spoke about the 8 gasoline pumps.
Yes, sir.
You neglected to say anything about the ability to charge electric vehicles, which of course we approved when we approved this item. I just want to make sure that because you left it out, it has not disappeared. I didn't hear you say it was, but I want to make sure that those are still in the plans. And I'd like to see in the plan where you show the facade, where those will be.
Yes, the EVs are still part of the categories catered for at this gas station, and they have a portion allotted them.
And I'd like to be reminded if you could show the pictorial of that, whatever view would show where those are.
Yeah.
Boniface, if you have that site plan, the site plan with the facades highlighted.
I remember the first one.
Attachment 1.
Okay.
Commissioner Gilbert, just as Boniface is going through the site plan, the EV parking stalls are on the west side, facing the exit of the car wash. So that's kind of the location of it, and that hasn't changed.
Mhm.
The plans are currently in review. They've submitted for building permits. And the applicant can provide more details on that, but just in case
one of my lunch groups, we have 7 EV drivers. And I have told them that we're bringing charging stations to Lincoln in this gas station, and I don't want to have to go back and say I was wrong. So I just want to verify it.
Yeah,
From what I
it's
can
there.
tell,
There we
there's,
go.
there's,
Okay.
there's
Okay.
5.
Good, good. We're all set.
Okay.
We're all set.
Anything else from the commissioners before I open it to
Thank you.
a public hearing?
It's on the screen, but
All right.
it's not showing properly, so.
We've seen it though.
I saw,
Okay.
we're okay.
Yeah, we're
We're okay.
We're assured of it. All right, and with that, I am going to open it to public hearings. Do we have anyone in the audience that wishes to speak on this matter? Yes, sir, would you come to the microphone, please, and state your name for us?
Yes, good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Ahmad Gadiri with ANS Engineering. I'm with the applicant. I'm here to answer questions.
All right.
And the EV chargers are staying on there.
Thank you.
west side.
I appreciate you coming, and I don't believe we have any questions for you. Do we have anyone online that wishes to ask a question?
There are no hands raised online.
All right, thank you. And seeing no one else, I will then close public hearings and bring it back to the commission for any other comments before we vote. Anything else? No? With that, I will entertain a motion to adopt Resolution 2024-2B.
I make the motion.
We
I'll-
have a motion.
I'll
Do I have
second.
And we have a second. With that, may we have a roll call, please?
Vice Chairman Gilbert,
Yes.
Commissioner Eric Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Eklund,
Yes.
Commissioner Jerry Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner McKinney,
Yes.
Commissioner Reedy,
Yes.
and Chair Hutchinson.
Yes. And motion carries unanimously. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is item 9B, which is the Lincoln Square Commercial Tentative Parcel Map. And staff will be addressing this, Romel Pablinas. And so unless my colleagues have any comments before he shares the information with us, we will. Right, seeing none, Mel, you are up.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mel Pavlinas, Planning Manager. Good. Thank you for this opportunity to present this project before you, your commission. This is the Lincoln Square Commercial Tentative Parcel Map. Just a couple of housekeeping items before I go through my presentation. You've been provided, hopefully, a couple of documentations. In particular, there's a revised tentative map that was provided to your commission. There really isn't a whole lot of substantive changes to the actual lotting. It's just more identifying some notes that during the review of the project, of the map, staff had provided some comments back to the engineer, and then as a result of those comments, they added more notes on the side of the actual map right here. So what I have in my presentation is the previous map, so the older version, but otherwise it remains the same. It's just some notes that needed to be included there per the map act, should I say. And then one more thing, let me open up something here real quick. So in attachment number 9, which is the resolution, that includes the condition of approval that's been presented to your commission as part of your packet. Do you want to see here? I can show this to you. So this is attachment number 9, and it has all the findings and the resolutions for this project. I wanted to point out condition number 2, or number 5, sorry. This is my notes. Number 5 right here, it shows the wrong expiration date timing. It says right here currently it's 2 years. That's been since amended to be 4 years. So I wanted to point that out. I don't want to shortchange the applicant by 2 years as far as their map, initial approval of their, the life of the map. So I wanted to point that out as well, that that's a correction that for condition number 5. So for the record. And let me see now. Thus far, I have not received any public comments. So any comments that, that you may have, I'd be more than happy to answer them. And the applicant, Tony Frazier, is here as well, if you have any questions for the applicant team. So those are my housekeeping items, and I'll go ahead and proceed with my presentation. So before you here is the Lincoln Square commercial tentative parcel map. And where's the? So this would divide the property 8.43 acre parcel into 6 commercial parcels so that the applicant can then proceed with selling, financing, leasing, or developing the properties in accordance to the Lincoln Square General Development Plan. The project also includes an abandonment easement, kind of similar to what you heard earlier. In this case, we're ahead of it. So there are easements that are recorded on the property that would need to be abandoned, and there's a process to make sure that that abandonment is consistent with the general plan. And so that's part of the request. So it's more of a cleanup, kind of similar to the Joyner Ranch East project, to make sure that there's any easements in the future for the development would then not conflict with these easements. So that's why it has to be cleaned up as part of this tentative map. So, and the applicant for this project is Rayani Holdings LLC, and I think we have a representative from the applicant team, including Tony Frazier. Aerial photo of the property is pretty prominent as you enter into Lincoln, into the city of Lincoln, off of Lincoln Boulevard, Sterling Parkway. You have this vacant site at the southeast corner of Lincoln Boulevard. Lincoln Boulevard, and then Sterling Parkway, which is this road that curves down off of Joyner Parkway. It has a land use designation of commercial as well as zoning of commercial. It is within the Lincoln Square General Development Plan as discussed in the staff report. And it's surrounded by existing uses, residential to the west, commercial to the north, to the east. You have this large nature preserve open space parcel right here as part of the 12 bridges, so Sun City, Lincoln Hills, GDP. And of course, this is the rodeo site. Zooming into the property itself, in the red and green outline there is the property. As you may have seen, more being a prominent site into the city, you have existing improvements on site. There aren't any buildings. As discussed in the staff report, there were previous approvals from late 2010s that never materialized, and due to the downturn that was occurring at that time. So these improvements are there currently, and I'll show some pictures here thereafter. But just wanted to kind of give you a kind of context of what's there right now. There's driveways, there are pads, again, from previous approvals that never materialized. Some photos of the site. Again, looking north, you have the property. It's hard to see here, but this is the driveway along the south part. That's not on the property. That's kind of between this property and the rodeo site. That shows the improvements. Looking east, again, some French drain, concrete French drain right there. Some rebar sticking out. So, and similar here is the pad. Again, more rebar sticking out. And again, looking west towards Lincoln Boulevard. Again, some parts of the existing improvements on site. Now getting into the actual map, again, this is the previous version that I mentioned that's being superseded by the map that I provided to you. It would create, it would divide the 8.43 acre parcel into 6 parcels, ranging to about 0.62 acres, which is parcel 5 is the smallest, and then 3.86 acres, which is parcel 6. So this parcel right there. I noted the easements that would potentially be abandoned, which is a landscape easement along Lincoln Boulevard, and then another one over here. There could be others, but we don't go through that, at the map stage. There'll be more vetting of that process as part of the parcel map, final parcel map review. But again, to do this is to minimize any conflicts with any future development easements. So that's the reason for this abandonment of easements. This is just a straight tentative map. It's creating parcels for development. But there's no actual development for this with this map. Typical consistency analysis. Given that this project is within the Lincoln Square General Development Plan, it's consistent with applicable codes in the Municipal Code, Title 17 and Title 18. There are standards also in the GDP, Lincoln Square GDP. Of course, as an application for development occurs subsequently, there'll be more reviews of that development. But again, this is separate. That's separate from this map. And as you go up the hierarchy of consistency, given that it's consistent with the Muni Code and the GDP, and therefore it's consistent with the general plan. So that's kind of the hierarchy of ensuring that this project is being reviewed for any applicable policies in the general plan and the subordinate requirements in the GDP as well as the Muni Code. There's conditions of approval, and that's attached. That's provided in attachment 9, along with the resolution. And those are to ensure that the development of the site, making sure that the existing utilities and improvements on site are manageable, and making sure that it goes through the whole process to ensure that the map is recorded and lots are created through the process. Given that the project had some histories and there are existing CEQA documentations as discussed in the staff report, this qualifies for an exemption under CEQA section 15183, because the history of it is that there was a neg deck that was adopted back in 2005, and subsequently that was adopted by the 2008 general plan. So that's the hierarchy, and therefore it exempts for further analysis environmentally. So for your commission tonight to forward these actions, following actions to the city council, that the commission find the project exempt from further environmental analysis pursuant to section 15183, and adopt resolution 2024-29 approving the Lincoln Square commercial tentative parcel map. That's all that I have. If you have any questions, be more than happy to answer them.
Thank you very much. Do any of my colleagues have any questions or comments before I open a public hearing? Yes, Commissioner Reedy.
Thank you. 2 quick things. First is the map and layout of the parcels is exactly the same as it was before, no change?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then I'm reading through here that, and I think you mentioned in your presentation that there may be additional abandonments of easements down the road. So I was wondering why we're doing these now versus doing it with the final map for the parcels that the abandonments are near.
More of a sequence. It's cleaner to do it now as opposed to then coming back. Maybe SP can provide some more details, but go ahead, SP.
Thank you. Yeah, Commissioner, it's a good question. So we're trying to do that here so that we don't have to come back to the commission for findings of consistency. The easement that we're targeting is basically an existing landscape easement that was dedicated along, Lincoln Highway and Sterling Parkway that would no longer be required because the applicant would actually be maintaining that landscape. So we're basically removing the landscape portion of the easement. That's pretty much it. So today you're basically finding, you're basically certifying that this vacation, is in compliance with the general plan. That's pretty much it. There's no vacation happening with this meeting.
Okay, so the two easements are landscaping because they're going to be shifted from the city to the developer.
Exactly. It's just a maintenance, shift of maintenance responsibility from the public to the applicant.
Okay.
And-
That's
and
pretty
al-
much the intent. Yeah.
And also, just from the standpoint of CEQA, CEQA needs to consider the whole of the project. So that, I don't need to get nerdy on that, but it's basically, those are the actions that it's part of the map. It has to be analyzed at some point. So it'd be good to really do it all once while it's known. And again, it's more of a cleanup because eventually we don't want to cause any issues at the back end. But again, it's more acknowledging that through this process, for this map, is the consistency with the general plan. And those are all codified with regards to the government code 65402. But it's really a holistic approach, making sure that the whole of the project, in this case, the map plus any abandonment was being covered adequately.
Thank you. Anyone else? Commissioner Eric Johnson?
Yeah, just kind of a comment. Just want to thank Tony and the applicant team for picking this up. You know, it's been sitting abandoned for a while, so I'm interested to see what it looks like, you know, all nice and done. But the only question I had is, you know, if Tony or the applicant, you know, when they get up to speak, if there's any tentative plans for kind of like a timeline or, you know, what that kind of looks like for development on there. Thanks.
No, let's wait till public comments. I'll open that in just a moment. Yeah, any other questions from the commission? Hearing, oh, yes, Commissioner Jerry Johnson.
I'd just be curious what the conversations were with Tony prior to this with fellow commissioners, if that's something they would care to share.
I think if you're hearkening back to ex-party communications
Right,
that
right.
two of you mentioned,
Right.
There was an email.
You want me to respond? Oh, yeah, so Tony just reached out to all of us asking if we have any questions, so I just responded exactly what I said right now.
Thanks.
I got the same email
I did too.
and I responded back saying that I didn't have any questions, that at the moment, certainly I could have developed some tonight, but we really did not communicate back and forth. I acknowledged his email and thanked him for the opportunity to respond.
Thank you both.
Else, Commissioner Johnson?
No.
All right, and with that, then I will now open it to public comments, public hearing.
Good evening, Commissioner. My name is Tony Frazier with Frazier Design Group, and I'm here on behalf of Riani Holding, which we have Sean online as well, and Kayvon represented with him, that they could answer any questions that I couldn't tonight. I really appreciate you taking the time to consider this action. Staff worked hard to bring us here, as you know, and mentioned already. The site been sitting there for, vacant for a long time. Kind of developed, eyesore to the city. So Riani Holding, moving forward, they acquired the land, and we've been working with staff to move it as fast as we can. And obviously, the tentative map renewal became one of the items that we need, but we are moving forward to a final map that's already moving forward as well, and we're hoping to get it to council October, November timeline. And staff willing, and they've been working hard for us. So I really appreciate everybody here. I didn't mention it earlier, but I know staff worked hard to get us here, and especially Mel and his team. This is really a very, very fast timeline, but again, for the benefit of the city, Riani Holding, everybody acknowledged the timeline is critical to get it done. So here we are. This map is really exactly what it was before, and as was mentioned, the easement abandonment, that's taking more responsibility, so just clean up from city to HOA or owner of the land. The goal is to get the final map recorded as soon as possible, so we can have parcel to sell, negotiate, and hoping to come back with design review very soon. Potentially, if we can be in construction 2025, that would be great for everybody. So we're moving as fast as we can, willing staff been willing and working hard to get us where we want to be. I don't know if I answered all your questions, but if you have any more, I'll be glad to answer them. But it's a very simple process, a lot in the ground. We're trying to resurrect it. So
Thank
I
you,
appreciate
Tony.
it.
Do any of my colleagues have further questions? I believe you do, Commissioner Johnson.
I do. Tony, this is less a engineering question than a developer question, but maybe you have some insight you could share. It seems to me that the high school rodeo and other rodeo events that occur there could be a synergistic with what is being developed here and might be of some benefit to have discussions going on with the rodeo folks. You know if that's happening or?
Not currently. I mean, our focus been right now to make sure that we have entitlement that's ready to go. I know that in the past discussion happened, and then there's easement and access in between. And obviously, anytime you bring development next to neighboring, that's a plus, especially what goes there will be benefiting the rodeo as well. So.
And you have a heck of a market there on
Yeah,
on some
exactly.
Saturdays, for sure.
So we're not opposing to any communication, especially as we work toward more enhancement and entries and so forth. I mean, that's going to be the vision to Lincoln as you come in. It's going to be big. And I don't know what the plan for rodeo, we talked to them before, separate than this project, separate discussion just with the chamber and so forth. They were looking for ways to enhance it. I think there's more to work with the rodeo, not just with this project, but with the chamber and other avenues. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Before I ask, do we have any hands raised online?
No, there are no hands raised online.
Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak to this project? Seeing none, I will bring it back to the commission and close the public hearing. Do my colleagues have any other questions before I call for a motion? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve Resolution 2024-29?
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. May we have a roll call, please?
Vice Chairman Gilbert,
Yes.
Commissioner Eric Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Eklund. Yes. Commissioner Jerry Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner McKinney,
Yes.
Commissioner Reedy,
Yes.
and Chair Hutchinson.
Yes, very happily to see this moving forward. All right, thank you all. Our next item on our agenda is item number 10, which is general business. Do we have any general business items from the staff? None. All right, thank you. And then any commissioner comments this evening? Seeing
I
none?
have a
Oh,
couple,
yes,
sorry.
yes, Commissioner Johnson.
One, two comments, but one is with regard to adequate landscaping along major arterials. If what we saw if we're seeing now on Nicholas and Joyner is any indication of lack of adequate landscaping, I think we really need to go back and look at what we're requiring to development. I mean, this is scary how narrow those strips are. That his comment speaks for itself. The second item is a procedural thing that I don't know if I'm only addressing my own concerns or if other commission members have had this problem. But when I work with the agenda, both before the meeting and during the meeting, it is difficult for me to get to attachments 2, 6, or 7. Each time I want to look at another attachment within an item, I have to go back to the agenda and then bring that item up. And the reason for that is that each attachment is a separate file. And I'm wondering if commission members would think there's some benefit in having a single file for each agenda item. Now, The downside of that would be if you have some attachment that's 80 pages long, that would make things difficult, and maybe staff would have to figure that one out. But everything on tonight's agenda could have easily been done on one item, on one file per agenda item, and it would keep us from having to go back and forth and back and forth.
I was gonna say, I experienced the same too, and I'm wondering if that can be like a browser just update. Because I think there's a way when you can change your browser settings that when you open a link, it opens in the same window or a new window. So I don't know if that, I changed mine to that because I've experienced the same thing. So I don't know if that'd be helpful or if you're
Maybe-
still looking to,
Maybe you could give me a tutorial.
sure.
I find it different in working on a desktop. It's very, very simple to go back and forth. The tablet or my telephone or my phone, it's a little more problematic, however, but you're right. You just change settings and it's not an issue. Any other commissioner comments before I call for adjournment? All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right, we won't vote on this. Motion carries. We're
Unanimous.
adjourned.
Does that make sense?
Thank you for.
No, well, I just don't,
There's a,
I'm sure it does make sense. I just don't understand.
there's a, that bugs me too with everything.
So annoying.
Yeah.
Short of 1 hour.
So-
I know-
Close out and then go back in and then
Yeah.
scroll down, fight